let you all know, first off, this is my first time speaking in person with anybody, any large group, so you'll have to forgive me because I am so nervous. But I've got my cards so I don't forget. Okay, so yeah, thank you for having me, everybody, for making time in your day, and thank you also, Elena, for inviting me. It is a great honor to be here, to be invited to speak to you, and I'm really excited to share my story. Okay, well, as you know, my name is Jessie. I have been what I call a nutritarian for 3 years. I did not coin the term myself. It was invented by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. He's a United States doctor. I'm also the author of the New York Times #1 bestseller book, Eat to Live. That book is how I discovered nutritarianism, and it's the whole reason I'm here today. Before I go further on nutritarianism, beyond telling you that it's part of a plant-based diet and lifestyle, not just something we do temporarily, but something that we commit to and really enjoy doing for our entire lives. I want to take you back maybe 3 years ago and tell you a little bit about what I was like before I found nutritarianism. Okay, so I was in my early 20s, but had been battling my weight for decades. Think about that for a minute. As a person in her early 20s, having been battling my weight for decades means that I have been battling it since I was a child. Sadly, that's very typical for American youth in this time, and it takes an incredible toll on your self-esteem. I was exhausted, tired all the time, literally. I was eventually diagnosed with a sleep disorder where I never go into stage 4 sleep. They put me in a sleep study. It was out of this world. They hooked me up to, must have been 50 to 100 little electrodes, and I was made to sleep with those on all night long, hooked up to machines and cameras, and they found out I never go into stage 4 sleep, which is the stage that makes you feel rested, and it can't be cured, according to them. So I was put on pills to go to sleep each night, and pills to wake up every morning. So I was constantly sick. I was constantly getting colds, flus. I would be the first person to get them out of my social group and the last person to heal. I had severe allergies, sneezing, swelling of the nasal membranes, couple that with asthma, with itching and watery eyes, like excruciatingly watery eyes, to the point where I would be itching and I would almost give myself black eyes. I was rubbing them so hard. It was awful. I eventually had to receive 2 allergy shots every single week, in addition to being on 4 different medications for the allergies, and it still didn't completely relieve me of all of my symptoms. The asthma eventually started to affect my ability to exercise. So if I would start to run or start to get my heart rate elevated, I couldn't breathe and I had to stop. Next was my skin, which started to suffer around the age, I don't know, 10 or 11, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And all of the modern physicians I went to see, all of the dermatologists, they could not help me. I tried everything that they could give me, and it just kept getting worse. I kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and it's just a child. It didn't make any sense. I was in unimaginable pain, emotional pain, and as you can imagine at this point, depressed. So I went on depression medication, in addition to all the other medication you can imagine. Whenever I would move around and get a new physician, I remember hearing a lot of doctors say, "You are just too young to be so sick." They didn't understand it, and frankly, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how I could improve my life, what I was doing wrong. The doctors, especially, I guess I should have said I'm from the United States, you probably can tell by now. The doctors in the US, they want to medicate, medicate, medicate. They're not interested in homeopathy. They're not interested in natural cures. They're not interested in dietary intervention. They just want to give you pills, and they want you to take them for the rest of your life for the most part, and that's their cure. So that's my past. At that point, I was devastated. I was in my early 20s, married, and seeing my life and my health crumble. And just wondering, what am I going to do? What am I going to have to do? And I searched for option after option, and eventually I got to dietary changes. And that is when I found the book Eat to Live. It was at my absolute breaking point. where I was willing to try anything to get better, to enjoy my life, to have energy. It's so ridiculous to be one of the only people in my age group unable to stay awake during the day. Like, I was so fatigued and tired all the time, and no one could help me, and it was awful. So I found the book Eat to Live, and I started to read it, and it's about nutritarianism and basically being vegetarian, eating whole foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and beans, and avoiding animal products, meat, grains, wheat, added salt in your diet. We don't eat any salt. We get it all from our fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Any food that's been altered from its natural whole state, like an oil, even olive oil, we avoid. Our objective is to get most of our calories, the big percentage, from raw leafy green vegetables, which provides us with our calcium, provides us with lots of protein, lots of iron that you would think you would get from meat. Okay, so that is the most important thing to know about nutritarianism, is that it's vegetarian, it's whole foods based. We don't add anything to it. We try to keep it simple. If you want to make it complicated, you can, but simple is key. So what is it? Plant-based, whole food, vegetarian, completely salt-free, emphasis on leafy greens, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and beans, and no adding anything as far as oils, sugars, cooked, uncooked, cooked or uncooked. Right. There's some foods that you need to eat cooked. Like if you're eating beans, you need to cook those, or those will hurt your body. It's kind of difficult to digest. And there are certain greens as well that, while they're great to eat raw, you can absorb more of their nutrients, some of them, if you lightly steam them. So, okay. The thing that really struck me was within the first 2 weeks of starting my nutritarian diet. And mind you, I ate everything before. I ate meat and eggs and cheese, butter, lots of wheat products. Okay, within 2 weeks, my skin cleared up. 2 weeks. I had been previously on, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the drug Accutane. It was prescribed by my dermatologist. It's an extremely dangerous drug that is actually illegal now in the United States because it's so dangerous. It's supposed to cure acne, and it has a great track record. I was on it twice, and my liver actually started to fail on the first time I took it, and I actually had to discontinue it. Awful drug. And that couldn't cure me, but within 2 weeks of going to an all-natural plant-based diet, my acne started to clear. And to be honest, I was really in it for the weight loss in the beginning, and so that was something I just didn't expect, and it took me by surprise. It was amazing. I'll go down the list, because I had to make a big list of everything that changed. The weight melted off of me. It's not about restrictive eating. So we eat as much as we want of any of those natural foods. We eat to complete satiation. There's no, I'm going to go hungry. I need to watch my portion. We actually encourage large, plentiful portions, like huge salads and eating until your heart's content, really. Your body seems to tell you what it wants to eat anyway when you cut out all of the junk that we eat. It's almost like it's able to communicate with you better. So all the weight I had, about 55 pounds, was gone in 5 months. The majority within the first 3. My sleep disorder went away. It went away. I can wake up early in the morning. I prefer to wake up before the sun comes up so that I can slowly watch it. It's amazing. I missed it all my life. It's amazing. We talked about my skin. Some of the problems that I had, I think I may have missed some of those. I had migraine headaches. Really bad migraine headaches that would blur my vision so that I couldn't drive, I couldn't walk properly. It's like, you can imagine my whole field of vision being this square, like this whole part of it would look fuzzy and it would kind of move. It was awful. Those went away completely gone. My allergies that I used to take 2 allergy shots a week plus 4 additional prescribed medications, the allergies went away. I was allergic to everything. My specialist called me hyperallergenic, meaning extremely allergic to so many things that they were very, very impressed with. Yeah, anyway, not in a good way either. Like, at one point they did this skin prick test on me where they did 72 injections in my back of all these different allergens. And then you get a hive over each one, and they measure the hive to see how large it is in diameter. And they were so shocked by how much I was just covered in hives everywhere that they had all their staff come in and like look at me and say, allergies gone. Yeah, allergies gone. Asthma. I can run now. I don't have asthma problems. I still have to carry an inhaler because once you have an asthma attack once ever in your life, you never want to have one again and be stuck without an inhaler if you ever need one, but I don't have asthma problems anymore. Now I am the last one, if ever, to get sick. And if I do, I am the first one to heal. Oh yeah, I think I mentioned I was on depression medication as well. I discontinued all of that. No medication. All of that gone. And the thing that made me the most amazed was that I was on this incredible amount of prescription medication. If you think of all of the money it took and all of the other things that that could do to my body, all of the side effects, that all of that could go away within a matter of a year. Just because I was cutting out processed foods. Who knows exactly which foods were the culprits, but I tend to believe that our bodies just, they need natural food, whole food that was grown from the earth, not separated and changed, altered, if you know what I mean. It's amazing to me that all of that could occur just because I'm eating whole foods now. It sounds almost too good to be true. And I've gone on to cancel my friends, get my friends onto the same program as me. And I've seen one person improve their eyesight and not need glasses anymore. I've seen somebody reverse their thyroid disease and no longer need medication. That person also lost 100 pounds without even trying. So that's basically my story, what I came to tell you. To me, it was a miracle to switch my diet and heal myself instead of a doctor healing me with pills that I'll have to take forever. You know, now I'm independent, I'm free to live my life, and I'm just now, as an adult, starting to develop my passions. I'm learning that I love to run and I love to cycle and like to wake up early, all because of dietary change. So the last part of my story was that I was contacted by Dr. Furman, the author of the book that changed my life. And I ended up a published testimonial in the second edition of the book, which was incredible to me. It was just unreal to look at the book that changed my life, that literally helped me scrape myself off the floor and change my life and start anew. To see my name in it is beyond what I can describe. It's so precious to me. I went on to go to Cornell University to do a plant-based nutrition series, and I earned my certificate from that. And it was the most amazing thing to see. It reminds me of homeopathy in that whenever we eat the right foods, our body responds with healing. It's really amazing. For instance, eating large amounts of leafy greens is the same, literally, if you draw blood as people are changing their diet, it's the same as taking a statin drug. Eating a statin drug, a cholesterol lowering pill. So you can heal yourself without doctors. And that's my story. Wow. Nutritarianism. Nutritarianism, the actual term, was created by Dr. Furman, Dr. Joel Furman. You can also read more about nutritarianism at his blog, www.diseaseproof.com. I was also interviewed on that, I want to say like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
What? How he found out about your story?
How did he find out about his story?
Yeah, he found out about my story kind of through online chat boards of other people who are going through the same dietary change. We would talk to each other for support, trade recipes. We found that you miss a lot of your traditional foods from your own culture, and you don't really want to give up your life so you can have a life. You want to try to create those, we're talking about cooking now, of course, try to create those dishes in new healthy ways. And so we would get on and swap different techniques. Yeah. So.
I just want to say one thing. You're an inspiration to a lot of people, but you're bad business for the pharmaceutical industry.
I know. And, you know what's amazing? One of the doctors, I wish I could remember his name, that lectured us at Cornell. He used to be a cardiologist. And I remember the story that he told us, and I'm probably going to tell it poorly. I'll try to tell it quickly.
Please.
I'll try.
What's his name?
I don't remember his name. I don't remember which. There were so many wonderful, world-renowned cardiologists who would come in and talk to us during our course. But this particular one did a lot of heart surgeries, open heart surgeries. And he was having lunch one day in the cafeteria, and they had a pharmaceutical rep serving lunch. They would bring in free lunches to the physicians. In exchange, the physicians would come sit down, eat lunch, and then listen to their presentation on why they should prescribe their drug. And he started to talk about a drug for pre-diabetes this is the part that's kind of fuzzy in my mind, but basically the pre-diabetes drug caused some sort of a chain reaction with their blood pressure. And so then he's like, then you have to get them on the blood pressure med. And then the blood pressure med causes the triglycerides to do this, and so you've got to get them on this other med. And basically what it amounted to was that through giving them the one preventative medication at the beginning, it made them dependent on a whole host of medications for the rest of their life. It wasn't, I guess it could help some people from getting somewhat worse, but you're not addressing the cause. It's such a financial industry as well. Anyway, so the doctor pointed this out, and he was a very, very good doctor at the time. One of his colleagues stood up and apologized for him to the pharmaceutical rep. And basically it was like, how dare you say anything against what he has to say? Like, who are you? Sit down, be quiet. Don't disagree with the pharmaceutical company. And he stood his ground, and the rest of the doctors turned on him because he wanted to actually try to uncover the truth behind some of our medications that we prescribe in the West that really don't help us, that cause more problems than they fix or help. So he got out of the hospital business and went into nutritional intervention for cardiac patients, which is fascinating, really, really fascinating. I've seen, I don't remember what they're called, it's like an x-ray, but you can see the person's veins. He takes those pictures of each new patient. He gets them to switch to a vegetarian diet, and then throughout the months prior, they do these repeat scans, and they print them out, and you can actually see the blockages in their veins opening up until they're gone. So you can reverse, I think the number, it's been a while for me, technical numbers go out of my brain so quickly, but around 10% of the blockages in your body through dietary intervention, you can open them up. And it was amazing. That was their motivation, to show the patients their own picture, to show their own blockages opening up. Rather than giving them a pill, that was their motivation, and they would find that the patients would actually follow through. So, yeah. So I guess my main purpose for being here was to introduce you to nutritarianism, which is a new plant-based way of life. My Blissful Nutritarian website is all about how we can live healthful lives happily and not feel like we're missing out. Learning to love our new foods and our new way of life instead of feeling deprived. And that's about it. Yes.
Any questions? Yes, please. Hello. Hi.
Sorry for coming late, and my voice is not very good today. I just wanted to know how much of what percentage of your
Loudly, please. You can't? Can somebody please?
What percentage of your diet is raw?
What percentage of your diet?
What percentage? I would say at least 60 to 70% of what I eat is raw. Yeah. I aim for as much raw as I can.
There's a lovely movie called Food Matters.
There's what?
Food Matters.
And there's another one called Hungry for Change.
Hungry for Change.
Does any of your food taste good?
No.
Taste. You know, what is the taste on these food?
The taste.
Is it tasteless? Because
It's not tasteless. No,
Salt, because you said salt free, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And no wheat and no rice.
That's
and
right,
if you
right.
can talk something on that.
You know, I'm glad that you bring that up. That's a fascinating thing. When you cut out salt from your diet, your taste buds actually have a period where they have to regrow and heal. They actually have to heal and be replaced. Because the salt, it burns your mouth. Salt is actually linked to stomach cancer. Dietary intake of excess salt that's not from a plant. So your mouth has to learn how to taste again, and damage has to be replaced, you know, and fixed. And then once it's fixed, you start to realize that those foods that used to taste plain and boring have a new depth of flavor that you never knew existed. Like for instance, how a lot of greens taste bitter to people is a symptom of you not eating enough greens. Greens actually will lose that bitter edge, and you'll start to taste this sweetness, like a tender sweetness that you've never noticed before. It's like trying a food for the very first time. Look at how babies will eat baby food from a jar, like it's the best thing in the world. And I don't know how many of your parents, but if you've ever watched a baby do that and then been tempted to take a taste of it yourself because they seem to love it so much, you're like, ah, it's horrible, it's disgusting. But they're not ruined yet. They haven't tasted all of the enhanced, supercharged flavors that we create with food chemicals and additives and addictive substances also. Like, well, we name the main three: sugar, fat, and salt. They hyperstimulate our senses and cause us to not be able to appreciate the more natural flavors. So at first, yes, it's difficult. I think for the first 3 weeks or so, it was really, really hard for me to eat. But the first 3 weeks, it's like your body is going through this amazing transformation, and that's where a huge part of your weight just like falls off. Like, at least for me, I think about 10 pounds in the first week. You see this rapid transformation, and it motivates you to get through the period where your taste buds are reforming so that you can get to the prize at the end, I think.
It says that you should have 6 grams of salt in a day.
That what?
6 grams of salt in a day.
Right. Now, I have to say, being from the West, I deal with milligrams. We talk about the body needing lower amounts, though. But we don't recommend, like, how many grams?
6,000 milligrams.
Okay, well, what we recommend, no, not what we recommend. Let me rephrase. What the body needs to function is approximately 250
Milli
to
is 1,000.
300 milligrams.
1,000 millimeters, maybe.
That's what the body
So
needs
that's
to
3
function.
grams.
Is it?
3 grams is what you're saying, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I just know in milligrams.
That's what he said.
Sorry.
3,000.
One gram is 1,000 milligrams.
3,000 mg.
Say again.
3,000 mg milligram.
3,003 milligrams.
3,000 milligrams.
1,000 milligrams make 1 gram.
3,000 milligram.
Okay, well, I'm talking about 250 milligrams. That is a low
0.25.
250
It's
milligrams.
0.25 grams.
Yeah, we're talking about an extremely low amount.
And this coming from plant-based food or additive? No, it's coming from the plant-based food.
Oh, you mean where I get my
yeah,
salt?
where you get your salt.
I get my salt from only plants. Plants have a very good amount of salt if you think about it.
Sure.
And I must say, sometimes I've slipped up and I've eaten something I shouldn't have eaten, like a piece of cake at a birthday or something, and the next day I will have huge bags under my eyes. I will notice I can get headaches, you know, just from eating foods like that. But I have no problems whatsoever on a very low salt diet. Your body really, it doesn't seem to need as much as we. And you don't realize what it feels like until you actually live it. And you realize, wow, I didn't know that I had that huge cloud hanging over me until it's gone and you can see again. It's something.
What about the pressure levels and salt? I mean, how does your diet compensate for that?
I have a very low, healthy range, very low blood pressure. And in fact, let me say, before I was a vegetarian, my blood pressure had gotten too low because I drank so much water all the time, trying to exercise and that sort of thing. So it really doesn't function the way that you would think. You would think that the more salt you ate, you know, you would expect your blood pressure to go up. But I was eating crazy amounts of salt. I was quite the salt eater. Like, I would even take bouillon cubes and lick them. It was horrible. And I would have such low blood pressure levels sometimes that I'd have to be hospitalized. I remember going in and getting 2 liters of fluid one time via IV because my blood pressure was so low I was almost passing out. And the doctor was telling me, eat more salt. Like, I'm already eating a ton of salt. But how interesting is it? And strangely, the reverse of what you would think, that by cutting out all excess salt, my levels stabilized. If you think about it, you think that whether you want to talk about God or nature or whatnot, the natural world provides what we need. It really does. So that's the emphasis of vegetarianism, is getting back to the basics, going back to the food that grows, that's meant for us, and allowing our bodies to function the way that they're supposed to. One more thing I want to mention that I just remembered. Another interesting side effect I've noticed since being a vegetarian, I used to live in the U.S. in the South, where we have lots and lots of thunderstorms, some of them quite dangerous. Have you ever noticed, kind of digressing, have you ever noticed that sometimes animals know when storms are coming? Yes. And we all wonder, how in the world did they know that? How did they know that tsunami was coming? How did they know that that earthquake was coming? It doesn't make any sense, but we just think animals have this different sense that we don't. Okay, that was when I converted to vegetarianism, was when I lived in the South. Within about, within about 1 year after being vegetarian, I would get this sensation before a thunderstorm where I could feel some sort of physical change in my ears. And I noticed after enough repetition that I was detecting a thunderstorm that was going to be rolling in. And so within about 45 minutes to an hour, I could be sure that there would be severe to violent weather after that. And that has never left me. It's like your ears, like whenever you're in an airplane and you're getting ready to take off, your ears kind of like flicker. You feel this pressure. I'm very sensitive to barometric pressure. And there's another thing that just shows you that if you eat what's natural, our body can do what it's supposed to do, you know? So, yeah. Any other questions?
Wheat. You said that wheat is...
Right. Right. You know, wheat is kind of a touchy subject. We avoid wheat. We really do. One of the things I learned at Cornell is that wheat activates, even in non-allergic individuals, individuals that seem to tolerate it very well, it activates inflammatory genes on the inside of your body, everybody's body. Like anywhere from 40 to 70 inflammatory genes, just by consuming it. It's one of these foods that hasn't been around as long as other foods in the history of humanity. And so, you know, we are what we are as humans because we evolve, and we change, and we adapt. And so we've adapted to be able to eat it, but not completely without consequence. And so the reason we avoid wheat is exactly for that reason, that there are still consequences of eating it. So when you have excess inflammation in your body, it leads to disease and a whole host of other things. So we do avoid it. There are some vegetarians who eat whole wheat, but I think it's a personal choice. Thank you.
Guys, I want to give this girl, everybody should give her a hug. Thank you so much. You know what we all do is go and look for adventure, right? Skydiving, getting over phobias, and we want to be brave, yeah? What we have seen here, what she's done and experimented with herself for 3 years to come out of all the diseases that we just saw is nothing short. It's not miracle. Now, she mentioned the word miracle. No, not at all.
It feels like it to me.
It is.
I never wanted to leave the house. I was so sick, you know?
She has been so brave with experimenting with herself. I can't tell you what an inspiration.
Thank you so much.
You know, a standing ovation for somebody who's like this. Please.
First-time public speaker, you've done a fantastic job.
Yeah, relax, sit down. Thank you for standing up. The reason I see is for the last 4 years, I've met so many different people who have degrees come and speak who have shared experiences with us. But Jessie, you are outstanding. Yeah, and you managed to communicate what you went through in a manner which touched, at least touched me. I hope not. Yes. Now the way we can adapt that and to challenge our own body, our own taste buds, and then the last bit that she said about connecting to your trees and your weather and the ground, that is so feasible. We have moments of it all the time when we connect, but imagine if we can permanently connect to that. And so, hats off to you. Thanks for coming.
I appreciate you all listening to. I know this being my first time, I'm a total ball of nervous wreck. Like,
could you make out that she's nervous?
No.
Anybody? Please? No, not at all. Not at all. Okay?
I really appreciate your time.
So, I'm just talking about your words. I just don't
Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless. God bless. Yeah.